All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of V Electronics, and in this video, we'll be talking about budget deficits and recession. Okay, so this is budget deficit plus recession. Now, when it comes to a budget deficit, we know that the government spending goes up, which means that government borrowing goes up as well. All right, and in order for the government to borrow money, okay, the government, for example, will borrow foreign currency. Okay, so government will borrow foreign currency. And turn that currency into domestic currency for the lenders. So in the last video, we talked about how the exchange rate impacts investment. As exchange rate goes down, as interest rates go up, okay, your capital investment goes up, which means foreign investors invest in the banks in a country with a low exchange rate. So capital investment, okay, goes up. So here, okay, once your capital investment goes up, okay, the money that the investors invest in the country is part of the money that the government borrows. Okay, as you invest in a bank, the government is able to sell treasury bonds or bills, as well as other bonds, government bonds, to the banks and borrow that money for things like national defense, for healthcare, education, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, if the government keeps borrowing foreign currency in this manner, what's going to end up happening is the foreign currency will weaken the domestic currency, okay, by increasing money supply. So as money supply goes up, okay, the value of domestic currency will go down. Okay, as the government is not able to repay the loan back on time or is not able to repay loan at all. Okay, so the value purchasing power, we know that purchasing power goes down and the value of domestic currency goes down because of an inflation. Okay, so because of inflation, so if you look this up on a graph, let's suppose this is your graph and this is your aggregate supply and this is your aggregate demand over here. And let's assume that this is your full employment. What's going to end up happening is as aggregate demand keeps on going up, okay, it will have a new equilibrium point somewhere over here, for example. Now, at this point, your demand is about full potential or full GDP, full potential GDP, or full employment, as a result of which the supply is not able to meet this demand. All right. And because the demand is so high, it causes inflation. Okay. This is where consumers or private consumption is not being met by the suppliers, as a result of which consumers may buy goods and services from outside the country. So what's going to end up happening is, Okay, the value of the currency, the value of the domestic currency will go down. Your purchasing power will go down, as a result of which the governments may not be able to pay back the loan. Okay, the governments may default on the loan. Okay, we're talking about insolvency or bankruptcy. Okay, so governments may default on the loan. The banks may default on the loan. And because the banks may default on the loan, because there might be a possibility that the banks might go bankrupt, okay, what's going to end up happening is international investors who invested in these banks when they had high interest rates during a recession, they will start withdrawing their money. Okay, and we talked about this concept in some of the other videos. This is called bank run. So you will have a bank run where investors start withdrawing their money from foreign banks because they think the foreign banks might go bankrupt and the government may not be able to pay the loan back, or the banks may not be able to pay the loan back. Okay, so there is an increased possibility of a bank run, as a result of which, when the international investors, and we've seen this in the past, back in 2007, 2008, okay, because of subprime mortgages, as homeowners were unable to pay their mortgages, it led to inaffordability of home ownership, okay, because of the stagnant economy and unemployment, as a result of which international investors lost their money, which led to a global recession. Okay, now to prevent this from happening, you might have a bank run where international investors might start withdrawing their money up ahead in advance, looking at the economic situation, looking at the stock markets. Okay, as a result of which, what's going to end up happening is, okay, as the international investors start withdrawing their money, okay, it will basically increase the impact of the recession. Okay, so the recession will become depression. So recession changes into depression. All right, so that will be it for this video. This is Ubaid on behalf of B Electronics. Have yourself a great day.